Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first of 2024 Revitalise Meets the Business Focused Podcast. I'm so excited to be bringing this back to everybody today. And I'm actually over the moon that I've got my first guest with me today as well. And what this is, the first episode of many, a series of 12 to 14 that we're running every Tuesday live at 5 on LinkedIn Live for me to have a chance to really delve in, to find out more about my connections, to find out more about their business, to delve into their challenges, their achievements, and really celebrate the successes of what's going on at the minute in their industry and what they're doing in their business. But most importantly, it's for you to really learn more about them and to hopefully identify some opportunities and some referrals. You never know, you might find an opportunity or two to introduce to one another from hearing from our guests. So let's kick things off in style with my first guest, a great friend, a great business connection from across the pond, the one and only Mr. Eddie Sand of Sand Marketing Systems. Eddie, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey, well, Lee. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited for you and this podcast. I think this is really needed and it's good timing, man. So I'm really happy to be here with you.
Thanks so much, Eddie. Really appreciate it. We've known each other for quite a while now. It's well, a lot of years now, actually, to and
Yeah,
fro from across the pond. And I think
yeah,
what's really important for me is that I know a lot about you and what you do and how you've helped so many people with sales over the many years. But I looked at your history and your background, right? I noticed you served as a Marine for 6 years. So how
yeah.
did you go from serving to sales and end up in what you're doing right now?
Wow, we're starting off with the right foot here, Lee. And I appreciate that because there are a lot of individuals I'm sure out there who could see themselves doing something better, and then they see somebody like you or myself, and they think, oh, they've reached their goal. They're good. It's so easy for them, but no, there's a history. So I'll tell you my quick little story. It's really short. I mean, really, I call my story how I went from an invincible soldier to an invisible salesman.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine, right? Just returned from the Marines. I I I landed in Jersey. Well, this was back in Jersey, and I landed this job because I had to get a job after the Marine Corps, right? Um, but I didn't do any better. It was a group interview, and the main guy showed up with a thick roll of cash in his pocket, like he pulls it out, and he basically says, "Here's the promise, like that we can actually have the same results, like there's Ferraris parked in the car in the back, and Lamborghinis and all this fancy stuff, right?" And he said, if we worked hard enough, if we really worked hard and never gave up, then we can stand shoulder to shoulder with the accomplished leaders in that company. So that caught my attention, and the way he said it, I'll never forget. So I was sold. I was, I was like, sign me up. I want to do that, right? And so I took a mission. And my mission then became to basically make 120 bucks. And the way that I was going to make 120 bucks was by selling my product that I had stashed in a brown box.
Wow.
And yeah, and this money though, this money could cover my investment in this product. And I could actually, maybe buy a couple of meals as well, and also definitely pay for the fuel that I was driving around selling these things. So, by the way, just in case someone is listening, brown box product, right? Stashed. It's not like drugs or
No,
anything,
no,
right?
nothing like that. Nothing like that.
It's
No.
not that. It was actually bottle perfumes. I was selling perfumes in the streets, the knockoff brands.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah,
Thanks for
I
admitting
did
that.
not. Yeah, yeah, I didn't know about that back then. I they just said sell it, right? Well, I should have not. I should have done my research, but I didn't know any better. So here I am, right? walking alone on the busy streets of Newark, New Jersey. So back, in your country, I wouldn't know what to refer that to, but just think of it this way: Newark, New Jersey, back then and still now, is the number one car theft city in the states.
Yeah.
Right, that's where you get your car. You don't drive nice cars over there,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure it's the same way up there, and it's equal to the crime rate as well. So this is not the nice neighborhood to go walking around. But I'm like an invincible Marine, right? I don't care. I'm like, dude, I'll go wherever, right? Well, every time I approached the person, my heart was racing, right? Like my palms were sweating, my throat started getting dry as hell. Like it was like, you're like, I have to do it, and then it happened. It was the biggest blow of my life. This lady, she thought I was about to mug her. She
Really?
actually, yeah, it was like she started pounding on me with her piercing words that felt like daggers on my chest, and her loud voice that blew up my face like C4, man.
Mm.
It was my first experience of rejection.
Wow.
And of course, right, a Marine, what do? Well, man, I didn't have no defense. My only response was run for cover, man. I didn't know, right? They didn't train me. They didn't teach me. So, so yeah, that was my first time I ran away from the profession of salesmanship, and all because I lacked the people skills. Number one, I didn't know that I needed people skills.
Yeah.
I didn't have a framework to follow, right? I didn't have like a good framework and script to follow through. And I didn't even have a coach, man. I literally, it was one of those things like they just drop you off somewhere and along you go, and but but that wasn't actually the only time I ran for cover. I have the scars to prove it. There was multiple times after that, but I just never gave up, and it just came to the point where I decided, man, there's got to be a better or easier way to do this. And sure enough, I'm all about, doing it the right way with genuine approach, having genuine conversations that turn into profitable relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm all about the buyer. I'm like we're focused in the salesmanship world today. They're still focusing so much on the close and the sales and the how much can we sell this for, negotiation tactics, overcoming objections. It's like, whatever happened to the buyer? How about we focus on communicating good value to the buyer so that they can feel comfortable and confident
Hmm.
to buy from you? How about that? you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
but yeah, that's it, man. That's my story. How about that? How you like it?
I like that. What gets me the most though is how you actually stepped. So when you ran and ducked for cover, right? You disappeared, ducked for cover.
Yeah.
How did you look at that again? Did you take a step away and think, okay, how can I handle that the next time? Did you regroup? Did
Yeah,
you
yeah. So I did regroup, but to my surprise, I always ended up in some sort of consumer customer service positions.
okay?
And I always, everywhere I went, they would say, "Hey, Eddie, why don't you do sales, or why don't you do this and make commission? Why don't you?" Every time. And so every time I would say, "Okay, I'll give it another shot." Failed. I'll give it another shot. Bam, fail. I had this one time. He was a gunny. He was another Marine, and he
Okay.
was a gunny. At that point, I felt comfortable enough to say, yes, I can actually do better in sales. And so he hired me, and this was in the fitness industry. So I became a personal trainer, and then a manager for personal trainers. So I'm supposed to sell more programs for my trainers. Well, it came to that point where he came back, and Gunny was like, "Hey, Eddie," he had this rough voice. "Hey, Eddie, you're not doing any sales. What's the matter with you? Why don't you just close here? The month is low here." And I'm like, "Well, Gunny, I'm like, I'm doing what I can." And he said, "Why don't you take this weekend and go watch this movie? And let me know on Monday. You come back here and let me know if this is for you or not." I'm like, okay. So I go watch this movie, and it was the movie was called, or still called, The Boiler Room.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was one of those movies that the guys are doing the sales over the phone calls. They're selling like penny stocks, but the way they were doing it. And so I came back on Monday and I told Gunny, I'm like, Gunny, I can't do this. Like I just that's not me. I cannot in my heart try to sell something like this to people face to face. Like I cannot do that. And he said, "Oh, I knew it. Just go be a trader." I'm like, there, bam! Like I'm like, phew. But that was actually a turning point for me,
Yeah.
because that's actually when I really decided. I had in my head two things, two thoughts. I said to myself, "Crap, I'm a loser with sales. Like, what the heck is wrong with me?" That's what I started saying.
Okay.
But then the other question came through, and I said, "But what if?" That's all it took. What if I can sell without being like that?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the turning point. I started not only to go and dig into the books and really learn and experience and do for myself some of those techniques out there. And I found that there was so many outdated techniques, outdated sales tactics from back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s that they were being used, thinking that it was going to work. And yes, it works. But here is my revelation. I found that there are two paths.
Yeah.
There is the money driven sales professional, which will succeed at no cost. And they don't care about much about people. It's like, I'm in it for the money, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. There are people out there doing that and they're doing great. But then I found that there are people driven, very successful people driven sales professionals out there.
Mm.
And they are also as high as, sometimes more than, the money driven for a longer period of time.
Oh wow.
So then I thought, oh my goodness, that's it. I was trying to be a money driven sales professional because that's all I was hanging around with. When I learned and I went back through the books and I looked at some of the marketing and sales things back in the days, I started to look into the people driven. And sure enough, right? When you focus on something, you get more of that. I started to find those mentors. I started to find those coaches. I started to find those programs and those people. And before you know it, I am till this day a people driven person. I am the guy that focuses on, let's not train sales objections.
Mm.
Let's train genuine conversations.
Yeah.
Or better yet, I say all the time, let's not worry about closing the sale. That's not a hooray moment for anyone. Shouldn't be, if they're in the right heart, right? I'm talking to the people driven individuals here. I'm not. If you already thought, if you already listened to this and you hang up, and obviously it's not for you, right? But for those who really feel uncomfortable trying to close the sale, trying to do all this overcoming objection techniques, and it's, you just not feel connected or aligned to that, this is what it is. So you actually start doing the people thing, and let's focus on learning to leave the sales call,
Mm-hmm.
not learning to close it, right? You got to come to a point where you have to understand, you and I know this, Lee, and this is why we get along so well. You have to understand that there is another human being on the other side that has a family, that has bills to pay, that is running a legitimate business, that is actually working with customers or clients. And there's a possibility that they really do care about the people they serve.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you come in their world trying to just sell them a vacuum cleaner, trying to sell them a car dealer, type of sales techniques, trying to push them to make a decision right there and then,
Yeah.
all because you've been training in the wrong areas. So, this is why I get so passionate about what I do. And like you, Lee, it's all about people. You're an amazing networker. I think you're doing amazing with your company. And I think this is why you attract the best people in your network, because RBC is the place to be, you know?
Thank you. I'll send a $5 to the post for you overseas for that one. So thanks for that.
Thanks. You can Venmo me that.
So it is an interesting fact though. A lot of people, we always talk about closers and talk about objective handling and all this and the gunning for the sale and the sale. But we joke aside, it all comes down to the actual galvanization, the steady building together a long-term business relationship with somebody, really getting them to know who you are and starting, you just said it before there, just starting a conversation with somebody.
Mhm.
Just have not just one conversation, have
Mhm.
multiple conversations with people
Yeah.
to really get under the skin, to find out about them and their needs and their wants. They might not
Mhm.
need your product, Eddie. They
Yeah.
might not need it,
Yeah.
but they may know somebody else who may want it, and they might take something from you maybe later on in the time. It might be a few months down the line.
It isn't that a concept, right? Isn't that being human?
Yeah,
Like, just being genuine about what you're good at. And if you're not good at something, just basically say, you know what? I cannot help you. I can't help you, but I know somebody. Or, I mean, I think there's just so much envy out there, so much pride in their work, and so much, you know, I want to look this way because I am this. Like, just be you. And again, right? Again, Lee, we attract those who that the same values that we have, right?
very true.
So it is obvious that an example is that your initiation back into this podcast, that is going to be a wonderful experience for many business owners out there, and professionals, is going to attract those who actually care about the people they serve,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's going to alienate or detract those who just don't have a heart for caring about people. They care about the latest greatest technology that can scrape a bunch of phone numbers and emails, and focused on my next catch of the day, so that I can make some extra money this month, and who cares about what I sell. Like, this is not for you.
not for you. So true. So very true indeed. So we talked about like what I want to ask you this afternoon as well, though. So we talked about you going to sales, but over the past many years, especially with COVID kicking in and everything else as well, what's been your biggest challenge that you've overcome? What's your biggest challenge that you've overcame and has become your greatest achievement over the
You,
past 12 or 2 years?
yeah, you know what is the tools available. I got caught up with the overwhelm of how can I actually be who I am using the tools available, so that I can actually have this conversations, or partner with the right company. And it was hard because there were some, now it's becoming easier, but there was, back in the day, there was still the mindset of, we do it the old way. If you're not coming to the office, how you can't help.
Mm,
It's like, oh, now things are changing, right?
yeah.
Tools, for example. So again, we saw a huge shift into virtual selling, like here, right this in this world. And so remote sales, it was something that, oh yeah, that's going to be in the future about 3 or 4 years ago. Today is the future. And now with AI, forget about it. It is practically Star Trek, and Star Wars type of lifestyle from now on. So that was the difficult challenge for me, because here I was attempt, like, how do I fit in? How
Hmm.
do I not go to a business and attempt to help them, or attempt to be, see what I can do, or sell, or increase their sales, or do something. It was hard. um and I got overwhelmed with all the different technologies that we got, Zoom, and after Zoom, it was so many other things, and the CRMs, right? The
Yeah,
customer,
so
right?
many as well.
So much. I mean, right now, there's SaaS industry has completely blown things off the water from any other industry that we knew of before Zoom, because Zoom started it all, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so there's so much. Um, and so I had to decide. It's really going back to the fundamentals of being a human being. Really,
mm,
once I was felt overwhelmed, once I felt, how do I get into this game? I started to see a pattern, and the pattern was that people were using the excuse to use technology to avoid human connections, to avoid conversations, real, genuine conversations. And of course, this, Lee, as you know, is only going to get worse because AI has come into place.
correct.
So there is a greater opportunity to become more human, to become more real, to be more genuine, to be transparent on who you are and what you can do, but to also be able to have a little spark of communication and caring about somebody else. When you put the human touch back into sales and marketing, the tools that are coming along right now will work amazing with you.
Yeah,
But it can go either way, right? It can be
correct.
the evil too.
Very true. You got to be careful with the balance with it as well, already. You got to get the balance just right with it, especially we've got that much technology to use out there right now. And I think from what we've had this hybrid living world now, we're living in a sort of online and in person. I mean, we would have never met if it hadn't been with Zoom or online. Do you know the
True.
boundaries have been
Remember, it was a clubhouse. That's how we met.
Clubhouse? That's it. Where that disappeared to, we do not know. That went somewhere else. But yeah, that was a bit of a journey, that one. But do you know what? That was actually cool because people were getting together, they were chatting, they were discussing. It opened up
Hmm.
other communications, and it's
Hmm.
all about the communication that you've just said there
Hmm.
before. That's
Hmm.
what it's really done for us all. So thanks for sharing that with us. In regards to sales, though, Eddie, right? So we've talked about sales a lot, and we've spoke about the human connection, the human factor. We've talked about the communication lines that you got to delve into, and that's so much more than identifying the close, the sale, the objective. It's that nurturing side of it. What would be your golden top three tips to someone who's watching today and thinking, do you know what? I want to get better at sales. I want to
Hmm.
get better in my industry. What would you advise them? What would be their top three tips for them?
All right, so I got it. This is a great question, and I'm gonna give them to you right now, and then I'm gonna
Okay.
tell you why I believe this is so crucial. So number one is you have to master the art of active listening skills.
What's that, sorry?
Active listening, exactly.
I'm just joking with
I
you.
know, but that right there, number one skill you must master. But notice it's not just listening skill, it's active listening. So that's number one. Number two is you've got to make a choice. You are either a money driven person or you are a people driven. So we cannot attempt to change you if you're watching or listening if you're in the money driven. Now, obviously, you're probably not listening by this time. But if you are people driven, that means you're still here, you're still watching, you're still listening. You may be in the RBC network, so you're people driven. This is where you need to understand first. You need to focus on learning and mastering client centric solutions. Basically, what that means is like the ability to create specific and personalized solutions based on what you just heard.
Yeah,
Active listening, right? You cannot just sell something if they don't want it. It's just impossible, or worse, if they're not even looking.
yeah,
So you have to listen, right? Client centric solution, that's the way to do it. And the third one is really be dynamic with your sales strategies. And this is why I wanted to say those first three things, because being dynamic means you have to develop the skill of salesmanship. Notice I'm not saying develop effective sales techniques. I'm not saying that. We've got to go back to the art of salesmanship. There are many books written about this, and mainly most of them focus on influencing, okay, the power of influence. So, but here is the thing about salesmanship: you've got to be able to adapt to various clients' personalities. Like, what drives this person? You may be talking to an example, someone who is mission driven, a leader, and they're all about the bottom line. But you have to understand and learn what keywords are they speaking to help you understand that they're driven. Therefore, I cannot show up like um, someone who is, I don't know, passive, who is a little shy about asking for money, or worse, asking for the big ticket money items, because you just feel like maybe a deposit. It has happened. I have friends who had this experience already. Someone called them up, they were referred, they said, oh yes, sure, we can help, and our price is, I don't know, I'm just going to drop a price, $10,000. Okay, that's the price. And the company didn't follow through. And so one of my buddies decided to find out why. How come they didn't take me on this offer? Man, he opened up a can of worms on that one, because when he connected and they sent him back a response, basically they were saying that they heard that he can help, but the amount of investment was too little, and therefore they felt that he may not be the right company to help them with what they needed. Too little, Lee. So from that moment on, from his experience, of course, we all learned in our little group, and we're like, you know what? We have to set our values very high,
Yeah.
promise and deliver always. Don't ever over promise, right? So promise and deliver, but
Mhm.
then match the money right there to that. In fact, it's okay to match it, even go a little bit higher. And here is the tip that I have with that. If you're enrolling in your conversations, you're enrolling client, let's say first client is like, oh my goodness, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Here, take my money. Okay, done. Good. Second client, oh, this is a no-brainer. Third client, oh yeah, take my money. If you have three or four sales like that, four enrollments that they're pretty much kind of like no-brainer, easy for them, you're charging too little.
That's a really good point, by the way, Eddie. There,
Hmm.
that's a really good point.
You're
Now,
charging too little.
yeah, people don't look at the statistics or the strategy behind that as well. Yeah,
Oh yeah. So you need to, that's when you need to increase. Do you increase like a lot? It's really what's comfortable, right? So let's say if you're charging $3,000 for something, don't go charging like 20,000, because maybe you may not be comfortable saying 20,000, but maybe double it, double it.
yeah,
And that's when you test it. And so now if you're getting 3 out of 10, okay, okay, that's good, and you keep working through, then you're going to hit that point again. Oh,
yeah,
10 grand, like this company, 10 grand, that's too little. Okay, time to increase again. So that's definitely one thing that you need to do. And then my final thing
yeah,
for that is discovery calls. 100% you need to invest the time, the energy, those skills that I just mentioned. You need to master them, and you need to do them right in your discovery call. It's a very crucial time. You do not want to just lightly have a conversation, try to discover if it's a good fit, or maybe make it fit, even though you know in your heart it's not a good fit. Wasting time, wasting energy, and you're going to look bad. So I would rather, in fact, I think I just posted something today. Like, I would rather spend all of my energy in a discovery call to make sure I listen, to make sure I take notes, to know that if I can help, to take all the deep dive, right? I would rather spend all that time there and then maybe spend 10, 15 minutes on a presentation showing them a personalized solution. Then what most people would think they need to do. Oh, spend 10, 15 minutes discovering, oh yeah, we're a match. And then spend a whole hour to find out that, oh no, it's not a good fit. And now you just wasted an hour, hour and a half,
Yeah.
knowing that you could have taken that time to listen in the first call, you know? So
I
those are
think
my tips for that.
what you've just touched on there is brilliant, by the way. But also, I think the promise and deliver. People always overpromise, but
Oh
shorten
yeah.
the delivery. And what blows my mind is many people will not follow through on
Mhm.
taking action on the opportunity. It's something that I talk
Yeah.
about quite a lot on. They
Mhm.
leave it on the back burner. They leave it on the table, and then literally months down the line, they go back to somebody, and it's gone. And one of the other points you mentioned on there as well is the investment wise in regards to the price point. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. If people are buying your product like there's no tomorrow, best thing since sliced bread, boom, they're just buying it, buying it, buying it, buying it. That's cool. Your price point, your strategy could be different. You might be want to increase it by a certain percentage, or you might put it up. One of the things that I learned in sales was always go in high.
Mhm.
You can't go lower to higher, but you can go higher to lower if you want to bring it down. So you can always give a value back to it if you really want to get that client on board with you. So always go in a little bit higher than you think you should be. That's great because you're offering the value of you. In other
Mhm.
words, you can drop
Yeah,
it.
and don't ever don't be a scammer. Okay,
Yeah,
just really upfront. Don't be a scammer. Don't scam people telling them, oh, today only we can enroll you. You can get started
no,
because we have a special offer for this month, and then only today. Don't do that.
no, no.
Stop it.
You've got to give people the time. They're either the right place or they're not in the right place at the minute, and they may come back to you. They might come back to you down the line as well. I think that's a really important part. So thanks for us sharing that with us. Number one, active listening skills, everybody. Number two, people or money driven. Learn to be client focused on their solutions. Number three, dynamic strategy. Adapting to clients. What I wrote down here is adapting to clients, environments, and personalities. Adapting
Absolutely.
those three key areas that are in there. Listen
Absolutely.
out for the buzzwords, promise and deliver, the investment in the discovery call to take a deep dive in. What I want to add to that is qualifying the client or qualifying the connection that you've got to see if you're a good fit and how you can help each other as well. It's that qualification part of it is really important as well, Eddie. So
It is. It
I'll
is.
reshare this again on one of my posts that'll go out on social media, on the Instagram or one LinkedIn at the minute as well, LinkedIn Live. So if anyone's watching this, by the way, please feel free, if you wish to, just add in the comment area. You can add a question for Eddie. Just then we'll get to the end of today's sort of talk as well. So please just add that on the LinkedIn stream if you feel appropriate to do so. Um, we've talked about books. We've talked about personal journeys. You talked about being a PT instructor from the forces days, etc. as well. What's one of your biggest learnings recently in either business or personal that you like to share with everybody today? So what have you focused on? Have you done a lot more personal development or have you done a mixture of both with business development in there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, definitely personal development. I would encourage everyone to understand that if you ever doubt your abilities and your talents, just go do something and
Yeah,
test your talents and ability. I had to take a step back last year because I wanted to get away from having that imposter syndrome kind of thing, like thinking, oh my goodness, am I capable of doing this? Should I do this? Who else is doing it? And why would I want to do that? And so, things, it just spiraled downhill from there. And I will tell you that I just had to shake it off. I did learn that I have a very unique and special approach and that is transferable. So, which was amazing because I thought, oh my goodness, how can I duplicate myself if they're not me? But yeah, it's duplicatable. We just talked about it.
yeah,
But to get, for me, the lesson learned this year, for this year, is go and do. Not go and prepare to do, not plan to do, not write down goals, not write down a framework, not, like, not sit down to think about how to do it, but to actually just do
Mhm.
and learn from the doing. And that's what I've been doing. This first quarter has been an amazing learning experience for me, all the way from the foundations. I went back to the foundations, from using the technology that we have and doing the cold calling the
Yeah,
right way,
yeah,
to the closing or enrollments, or whatever you want to call it, in regards to enrolling people the right way, and everything in between. And you just have to, for me, I had to take a step back, because I started to feel that way. And all I can think of is, wait a minute, really? Let me do it. And sure enough, boom, there it is. Oh, here it is. I can do this. This is nothing. This is fun. This is good. This is so That's what I will say. If you're stuck, if you feel stuck, and if you're thinking too much about should you, could you, or what if you can, and just go do.
do you know what's really interesting there? What you mentioned there, right, is that there's not many business owners would take a, especially when you look at sales, they try and keep going and keep pushing through to
Mhm.
get through the other side. And unfortunately, sometimes, and I'll put this out there, is they cause themselves too much damage in business trying to push it too hard. They don't take a chance to reflect upon it or take a step back
Mhm.
just to go, okay, let me have a look at what's on the horizon now. Because every business gets to a plateau mark in them, or they're pushing for the sales, they're trying to get to a certain leverage of area for their business, but they don't reflect back upon it and actually learn from what they've, as that word said, testing and measuring, testing it, measuring it, didn't work. It's not a failure, just didn't work.
Mhm.
Try something else. Don't try the same thing in a different way, just try a different angle to
Mhm.
try and get the same goal that you're trying to achieve. Um,
Yeah.
I think there's many people out there, and you just mentioned that there, is not taking time out and taking a step back to really realign everything you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's us, for this year for me. Definitely, you know how you hear for the New Year's they're going to reinvent themselves, or for me, it's actually just create myself, not recreate, create myself,
Yeah.
because I don't want to recreate. It's not like I've not been doing things what I'm passionate about. I just need to come back to the fundamentals and create and be very strong in the foundation of what I do and what matters to me most, which is, right, the buyer out there. Like, I want to make sure they feel comfortable and confident to enroll with whoever they're speaking with without any hesitation, but that it takes, you're right, it takes that. And let me leave it with this. Like, it's not newly. there are there are a lot of books, there's a lot of coaches out there that will tell you the same thing. And I have personally, in my network, I do have friends and connections who have shared with me that the way they scale their business, their 7 figure to 8 figure business, it wasn't, and they were shocked themselves, it wasn't a better process, and it wasn't a better team. It was actually personal development within them. It was them. They started to focus on themselves,
Mm.
and they were shocked their business took off. So there's so much out there that people can actually look and find. But yeah, for sure, take a step back and don't be afraid to do so. And stay encouraged. Just keep
Yeah.
going.
Just keep pushing forward. Keep aiming for that. The goal or the objective will always stay the same. The journey will change, but it'll still take the same direction you're trying to achieve it. So
Exactly. And be genuine about what you do and who you are, and always hang out with cool peeps like Lee, and the RBC crowd. I mean, I really love the crowd, even though we're so far apart across the pond, but it's really it's amazing what things are happening over there in Scotland and in the UK, really. And I see that beginning of the spark and the drive to be better as a person and
Yeah.
to serve more as a business. And it's really so cool to just see those beginnings. So I'm really excited to just hang out with you guys.
Cool. We'll look forward to try and get across there, or you coming over the pond and coming over here as well. So it'd be
For
cool.
sure.
Um, with your business journey you're taking, especially with the sand marketing systems, and you know, where are you taking your business to next? Where's the business journey heading to next for you, Eddie? What's around the corner for you?
Yeah, I want to, in my heart, I want to have more individuals, more professionals, more businesses to go back to the roots of salesmanship,
Yeah.
to the art of salesmanship, not to the sales techniques, but the salesmanship approach, right? And yes, there's so many books and gurus out there and the experts that can tell you certain techniques and tactics, but it all comes down to having those conversations. So for me, this year I'm focused on how can I help that buyer
Hmm.
through the professional in front of them. How can I make that buyer experience a much better, much softer, much, you know, um, align with their values, and basically create a perfect buyer? How
Yeah.
can we create a perfect buyer with our salesmanship, with the art of salesmanship? And so that's where I think this year is going to be an interesting one. I want to do the reach out and outreach and get together with those who are passionate about caring for others, and passionate about people driven,
Yeah.
and that are in either the sales industry, or maybe there are startup and they're doing it all themselves, or possibly they just like we talked about, maybe the business is taking a turn and stepping back, and how can they manage their team better with a better mindset. you know there's so much opportunities out there. There's a lot of shifts happening right now in this sales, remote sales, and sales in general out there. It's just that this is the opportunity for anyone to jump in and come to the light of having that genuine human touch in everything that you do, as in a career or in a profession or in a business. And I'm telling you, Lee, this will be recorded, and I know this is going to happen. Watch about 3 to 4 years from now. Watch, we, the people driven, we, the genuine conversationals, or the genuine connections, and all of this personal touch that we have learned and not given up on, we're going to be up front moving things ahead,
Correct.
because companies are going to, they're already finding out that they cannot transform the people who don't have people skills, the basics.
Yeah.
And they
If
can have all the technology, but they cannot scale, they cannot grow, they cannot start. So watch 3 to 4 years from now, you'll see we'll be the ones getting those calls saying, hey guys, can you come and like put a human touch into my company, into my business, into my process?
yeah, people to people, and that's where it always begins with. People buy from you. It's again, people buy from people. You've heard that so many times, and I think that's
Yeah.
so true. Very true indeed. Um, One last question I want to end with this call before we wrap things up with this, and thank you so much for spending your time with me this afternoon, or
Oh, it's my pleasure.
this lunchtime for you anyway. Um, who or what would make a great referral for you today? If someone was listening today, what would be a great referral for business for you today, Eddie?
Yeah, thanks. So any business owner who's doing some sort of B2B service, um, business coaches, yeah, they're very usually they're starting out on their own, right? So they're building up, and they have great value, or content creators. I've seen, I'm getting a lot of those questions from creators who have a program online, and they know they can change, but for some reason they're just not having those conversations to enroll more into their program. So
Mhm.
yeah, business owners, business coaches, or content creators. Um, those are the people that I feel that I've helped before, and they keep coming.
Would they be based in the United States, or are you looking from across the globe? Would it be anywhere you're looking for?
Anywhere, obviously, right? Thank God for our technology, and it's still useful. Even though I don't do any more much of Zoom calls, I'm trying out other avenues because there's so many other tools to use without Zoom.
So very true. Eddie, thank you so much. And how can, is it the best way to get in touch with you is through LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn, or just go to my website, virtualsellingcoach.com, and that's still available there. All my information is there, and LinkedIn, yeah, LinkedIn, you'll find me there, Eddie San. Can't miss it. So, but yeah, I appreciate that, Lee.
That's all right. I've just put in the chat area. It's actually gone on the YouTube channel as well. It's gone out there. It's gone to the Virtual Selling Coach's website for Eddie's actually on there now as well. And we'll just put in there for myself as what Eddie's looking for is business coaches, content creators as a great business referral for him. So the easiest way to do it is just to reach out to Eddie through LinkedIn, connect with him, start the conversation, and fire into the message. You can do a multiple intro message. I do a lot of networking introductions via LinkedIn for there as well. So if you feel that you can offer anything else to Eddie, please try and help out. But go to his website and find out more with Eddie from just there for us, if you don't mind. Eddie, just comes from me now to say a massive thank you for you spending the time or
Yeah.
investing the time in joining me today at the first ever one for 2024. Revitalise Meets the Business Focused podcast is back live. Thanks for being my first guest.
Oh, thank you, Lee. I greatly, greatly appreciate you, my friend. You are doing amazing things.
Thank you.
People like you for a reason, and your networking events are really spreading. I heard so many good things over there. So, yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing this back. I think it was needed and it's required, and it's the best time to do this. So, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for the time.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. And thanks to everybody who's been watching or watching back this recording today as well. Stay tuned because every Tuesday, live at 5 on LinkedIn Live or just live on Instagram, LinkedIn, and also on my YouTube channel, Revitalise Network. And please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Revitalise Network, and stay up to date what's coming up. And next week on Tuesday at 5 o'clock, I'll be welcoming along a brand new connection, a great guy and a fantastic coach, and that is Mr. Steve Lees of Coach for Growth, who will be joining me next Tuesday at live at 5. Thanks again to everybody from me and from Eddie. As always, take care of yourselves, everybody, and remember, happy connecting. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.